Nikola Jokic is their MVP level center, international player. He's lost 6 straight playoff games and been ejected in 2 of 3. I don't know if you can say this yet, but there is a narrative forming that he's not a playoff guy. He's just a regular season guy. So he does have a skill. Joy talks about this often. Being available is a skill. He's available. In the regular season, 7 years, he plays minimum 72 games every year. That's a big deal in the regular season, especially now that we've kind of normalized stars taking off games when they're like marginally hurt. He's available. And in the regular season, that's a lot of W's. He doesn't, to me, galvanize a team. He doesn't inspire teammates. He's just really talented. I'd certainly like him on my team. I'd rather him be a 2 than a 1. I know that's weird because he's in the MVP, discussion. But we've seen this with Westbrook. Westbrook plays really hard, like every night, like every possession. That is a huge regular season advantage. But everybody in the playoffs plays really hard. And so Westbrook would get into the playoffs, and his big advantage, he's just too reckless. And in the playoffs, you want more efficient players. That's why Jordan Poole, the Warriors, he's so damn efficient. Andrew Wiggins in the Warriors culture, he was never this efficient. So in the playoffs, you're looking for some different things, some toughness, some physicality, defensive end, every possession counts. Get a bucket, get a stop, guys. I don't know. There is a narrative forming, but when I watch the Nuggets play, I feel like they lack leadership, not talent. I like their coach. I like their players, but they're fighting on the bench. Is Jokic the guy? He's, like Giannis is very playful. Like everybody gets along with Giannis. And Embiid is very playful, very verbal. Jokic isn't like that. He's kind of a little bit more insular as a guy. And I'm not blaming him for the loss, but there is this sort of story forming now. He's not built for the playoffs. I don't know if that's true. But he's a different cat. I just don't feel when I watch Denver, they're cohesive. I think they unravel very quickly, and that's a problem. Here's Nuggets coach Mike Malone after the loss.
We can't splinter in adverse times. That's our challenge when things get tough, finding a way to stay the course. Obviously, you're down 6 at halftime, and then the third quarter, there's just an avalanche.
Yeah, and we've seen it back-to-back games where it just now some of this is the Warriors last night, they get into this now with Jordan Poole. They're just going to shoot threes. And a lot of them go in, and the game, it goes from you're down 4 to you're down 12, boom. So, there's not a lot of blame here, but I do not see them as a wildly cohesive team. And again, it's a lot of the same guys. Like I would get if Philadelphia wasn't cohesive. Here comes James Harden. And then you lose Drummond and you lose Curry. And I would get like Brooklyn not being terribly cohesive. Like Boston should be. We've had Tatum, Marcus Smart, and Jaylen Brown. We've had those guys together, the big 3 there for years. Like you should be cohesive. Warriors should mostly be cohesive. But Denver should too. Come on, we've had the same kind of guys here. They should be. They should not unravel. It's one thing to lose. It's another to unravel. I don't know. Something doesn't feel right to me in Denver. Dane Brugler is an NFL writer for The Athletic. He has 399 scouting reports. He just stopped 1 shy of 400. He put his foot down. I'm not doing 400. He's ranked. Why? Well, young crowds, more testosterone, no kids often, not married. They spend their money on sports. They're loud. You want to have tickets that young people can afford. But there is a city in the country that has lots and lots of rich young people. I'm reading it here. The U.S. city with the most millennials earning the most money, number 1 is San Francisco, and number 2 is neighboring Oakland. And they are all Warrior fans. That is the loudest arena in the NBA, and it's not close. No fan base feeds off its team, and no team feeds off its fan base. What about Phoenix? Phoenix's home and road record's the same. They're great everywhere. Because of all the money in tech, the Warriors have the youngest, most rabid fan base. You want young fans. Old Yankee Stadium, younger crowd, wildly raucous. Then they rebuilt it, charged more for tickets. That made the crowd older and more affluent. The stadium got quieter. I saw this at the University of Oregon. Autzen Stadium was a crazy place. Then they rebuilt it, charged more for tickets, priced out a lot of the young people. But San Francisco and Oakland is where young people make millions of dollars and buy seats on the floor By the way, third is New York. It's why Madison Square Garden is so loud. You want young crowds. And what you saw last night, it was palpable on television. The Nuggets had the size, but they shrank. They became the McNuggets. The crowd, they have led after the first quarter in both games and then evaporated. You could see the seams, the tears, the fabric coming apart. And the crowd has a ton to do with it. I mean, Steph is great. When he played this year, they had the best record at home. And we don't give fans a lot of credit for stuff. We think it's just about athletes, but basketball is unique. Because of the proximity, fans to the players and fans to the officials, it can be more intimidating. In hockey, you don't hear the fans. Certainly you're not next to them. Same in football, same in baseball. But they did a study years ago on college basketball officiating. People always say the NBA's got bad officials. NBA's got great officials. They're human. They miss calls. And they found in college with younger officials, they were wildly influenced by crowds. Older NBA officials were not. But when you watch the Warriors, you are looking at the loudest, because young people drink more, right? They drink more, they stay up later, sports is a bigger part of their life, they don't have to go home, they're often not married, they don't have kids, and they party all night, and they live for the Warriors, and they're on the message board, and they get there early, and they get lubricated, and that crowd is insane. And I've watched the Nuggets now in back-to-back games completely unravel, 418 straight sellouts. And this is a memo to all you billionaires who want to build fancy new stadiums. You better create seating for young people. Now, in San Francisco and Oakland, it doesn't matter because young people make a ton of money. Same in New York. Madison Square Garden, if you've ever been to a basketball game at Madison Square, I've been in 30 basketball arenas. I've not been in the new Oracle. Madison Square Garden is just louder. It's all those Wall Street kids making money. They don't have to be home at night. They can sleep on their buddy's couch. They don't care. Sports is their life. But when you build these new stadiums, please, please, please keep in mind seating for young people, because it is an advantage for the Warriors. It is a clear advantage. That fan base is nuts. It's too bad Jim Dolan owns the Knicks and they can't get their act together, because basketball is better when New York is great. And it's not because I love the uniforms. It's because Madison Square Garden is it's crazy. It is so loud, on top of you, lubricated. And what I watched over the last couple of games in this series, Denver's just not, they don't want that smoke. They got no interest. They are not ready for it. They're not ready for that crowd. They're not ready for that team. And the Warriors feed off it, because their best player is a flashy player, and he gets the crowd. This is not a dull, this is not a team, the bad boys, we play defense. This team's all about shooting threes, flash, speed, up and down the floor, and the crowd, and Steph gets them worked up. It is quite a scene on television, and the Warriors are back. Good luck to the rest of the NBA. So a second story. Utah Jazz could not beat the Mavericks without Luka. So they won one or two games. The Utah Jazz have always been a really good job. Coaching the Utah Jazz, really good job, with no chance to be a great job. It's like Wisconsin football. It's a really good job. Athletic director's good. Facilities are good. The fans are great. State of Wisconsin's got like 6 Division I players every year that can play. Utah's a good job. But they have to go international and get home runs in the draft, because like the Packers, it's not a free agent place. If you look at the greatest Jazz team of all time, they got Stockton and Malone in back-to-back picks, but one was 13th, one was 16th. They've got to hit home runs. They've got to go international. Bojan Bogdanovic, Rudy Gobert, Joe Ingles, they've got to go international because they don't get free agents. They got to hit home runs in the draft, and they've done it before. But this is why Quinn Snyder is looking at the Lakers. The Jazz do everything right. The fans are amazing. The facility's great. The new owner is super smart. The coach is amazing. But it's hard there. You got to go overseas. You got to get home runs in the draft. You don't get the free agent edge. And I've seen this before. Notre Dame is a great job, but Brian Kelly was right. LSU is a greater job in 2022. Easier to get kids in. There's more players in the geographic footprint. Oklahoma's a great job. USC, when it's on fire, is greater. Why? Because there's 125 Division I players in California. There's 12 a year in Oklahoma. You don't have to beg them to play. You don't have to leave the state to get 90% of your players. The Packers and the Jazz have limitations. Karl Malone was a 85 draft, the 13th pick. Stockton in the 84 draft was the 16th pick. You hit back-to-back home runs, you can be in finals for years and years and years. I grew up with the Seattle Mariners, same thing. We are so geographically isolated in the Pacific Northwest, they fly almost 50,000 miles a year. That's why in the second half, the Mariners always run out of gas. They're on planes too long. But I look at Quinn Snyder, and I see a great coach and a well-run organization and a rabid fan base. And Rudy Gobert's a remarkable defensive player. But one injury to Joe Ingles, or it was Bogdanovich the year before, and they're not a championship team. In fact, they're not even a conference champion. They're not going to get to the Western Conference Finals. As good as Quinn Snyder is, 8th season, no conference finals. It's not because he can't coach. It's not because it's not a good front office. It's not because Donovan Mitchell and Rudy Gobert aren't individually great. But if they have any little injury, they lose a Bogdanovich to a wrist injury, Joe Ingles out, it's over. They don't have excess. They're, like LSU football has a third NFL running back.